Bad acting in 90s movies is something special. While you're probably not expecting acting brilliance when you're watching a movie starring Vanilla Ice or Pauly Shore, even 90s A-listers weren't above laying down a stinker of a performance. If you happen to have let Will Smith know that Wild Wild West wasn't a good movie on your to-do list, then you can go ahead and cross that off. He already knows.
I don't know. Wild Wild West just is a thorn in my side.
In the ill-received movie adaptation of the classic television series, Smith plays Civil War hero James West, who teams up with Marshal Artemus Gordon to save President Ulysses S. Grant from an assassination attempt. In addition to simply being a bad movie, reviewers were especially critical of the movie's heavy reliance on special effects, leading to a whopping 16% of critics giving it a favorable review on Rotten Tomatoes. The film is a disjointed mess, which is more on director Barry Sonnenfeld than its lead actor, but it's not like anyone is taking to the streets to claim that Smith delivered any kind of stellar performance.
By the way, boobies look great tonight, nice and perky.
He even evaded the wrath of the Golden Raspberry voters for his acting performance, but he couldn't avoid being saddled with the Worst Original Song Award for unleashing the Wild Wild West rap song onto the world. Did you watch the Rocky movies and think to yourself, man, Sylvester Stallone is hilarious, he should do more comedies? Well, if you didn't, Stallone sure did. After an attempt at stepping into the comedy world with the critically panned Oscar in 1991, he decided to roll it back the following year with Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Since he wasn't spending the majority of the movie popping off his shirt and killing anything that moved, Stallone was clearly out of his element, with both films trying to elicit laughs from his fans, with Stop bringing an especially wooden performance out of the action star.
Yeah, and I could be Elvis, and I could be the Wizard of Oz, and I could be home watching the Lakers. Look, you want a deal or not?
In his review, Roger Ebert generously awarded it a half star out of 4, going on to write, "It is moronic beyond comprehension, an exercise in desperation during which even Sylvester Stallone, a respiratory of self-confidence, seems to be disheartened. The Golden Raspberry Committee circled the film like sharks and smelled blood in the water, honoring both Stallone and co-star Estelle Getty with Razzies for their performances, and tacked on one more for the film's screenplay." According to Rotten Tomatoes, only 14% of critics thought the movie was worthwhile, and Stallone appeared to be in the other 86% camp. Responding to fan questions for Ain't It Cool News in 2006, when asked if there were any films he wished he had not appeared in, he immediately mentioned Stop and Oscar on his list. Boy, the 90s sure seemed to like mixing sex and murder in their movies. In between peak career performances in Basic Instinct and Casino, Sharon Stone decided to explore the valley floor with Sliver, another so-called erotic thriller that wasn't light on either star power or bare skin.
What? You don't like sex and violence? It sells, you know.
It's a purely formulaic 90s horny drama with plenty of breasts and butts on display and a plot as thin as the titular New York apartment building. The chemistry between Stone's Carly Norris and William Baldwin's Zeke Hawkins is non-existent, resulting in a notably awkward sex scene that's better off being forgotten. Marjorie Baumgarten of the Austin Chronicle pointed out that the talented cast was lost in the muck here, noting, quote, "The real problem is that we care not a bit for these characters. There's no suspense, no drama, no tension, no logic." Compared to some of the other movies on our list, Sliver was a runaway success, earning approval from a whopping 21 of critics and somehow earning $100 million worldwide. In addition to her reign atop the pop charts, Madonna has taken her talents to the silver screen on a few occasions to varying degrees of success. And at the very bottom of that list of successes is her performance in 1993's Body of Evidence. The pseudo-erotic thriller banked on Madonna's sex symbol status to lead it to sexy cinematic glory, gifting the star's character with the steamiest of all criminal accusations, murder by lovemaking.
They've taken something good between two people in love and made it dirty. I didn't kill him.
If that sounds stupid, that's because it is, with critics almost universally turning down the film's advances and leaving it with an 8% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The movie was the most acclaimed for being terrible that year, earning Madonna a Razzie for Worst Actress, along with nominations for Worst Picture, Worst Actor, Worst Supporting Actress, and Worst Director. David Denny of New York Magazine called out Madonna in particular, writing that she was, quote, "a hot bore, a terrible naked actress." The 90s was packed with similar adult-oriented mainstream films that featured plenty of nudity, but no matter how many actors got naked for Body of Evidence, it's still firmly on the unwatchable end of the sexy spectrum. In 1990, notably vulgar and foul-mouthed comedian Andrew Dice Clay pushed his acting talent to the limits by portraying a notably vulgar and foul-mouthed private investigator in The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. Clay had numerous acting credits to his name before Fairlane, but during the regrettable period of human history where Clay's star was shining brightly in the comedy world, the powers that be decided to roll the dice out to the public as a leading man. The result was one of the worst films of the decade, earning Razzie Awards for Worst Picture and Clay the award for Worst Actor, with a performance that was as uninspired as it was predictable.
Hey, you're that guy, the private eye.
You're a poet and didn't know it. Oh!
Roger Ebert gave the film 1 star and observed the glaring similarities between the title character and Clay's comic persona, writing in his review, "In a club or on a stage, foul-mouthed and race-baiting, he implicates the audience, and they laugh in order to exclude themselves as his targets. But a movie audience is more separate, more contemplative, more likely to be appalled than entertained." Do you remember 1991's Cool as Ice, starring Vanilla Ice, as he tried to make the leap from rapper to leading man? No? Then congratulations! You're just like everyone else! Since you probably have better things to fill your mind with, we'll keep the plot summary brief. Ice stars as Johnny, a motorcycle-riding rapper who desperately wins the hearts of a local honor student with his dance skills and bad boy antics.
Words of wisdom. Drop that zero and get with the hero.
Cool as Ice earns the distinction of being the best of the worst on our list, with a lowly 3% of critics giving it a positive review on Rotten Tomatoes. As for Ice's performance, it can probably be summed up best by Matthew Gilbert, who wrote for the Boston Globe, "The man whom promoters called rap-era Elvis has negative charisma." The movie earned Razzie nominations for Worst Picture, Director, Screenplay, and Actor for Ice, though the rapper didn't leave empty-handed, taking home the hardware for Worst New Star. But the film's universally bad reviews aren't what's important here. What is important, of course, is that the Iceman got paid. According to Cracked, Ice claims to have been paid $1 million for the film, which accounted for a sizable chunk of its $6 million budget. The movie made less than $1.2 million in theaters, and we're gonna go ahead and assume that Ice spent his whole paycheck renting out theaters to watch himself on the big screen. Demi Moore was as big a star as anyone in the 1990s, so of course she had to jump into the decade's craze of super horny films. It wasn't a success by any means, but at least her movie Striptease didn't have some kind of sex-crazed killer in it. Instead, it just had Burt Reynolds playing cinema's creepiest congressman. In this career misstep, Moore plays Erin, a single mom who takes a job at a Miami strip club to earn the money she needs to regain custody of her daughter. In between all of Moore's blank looks and exacerbated size, she seems determined to prove that her character should not be the one in charge of her child, and it's not because of the stripping. After leaving the youngster at the strip club like it's daycare and dragging her along to crime scenes, movie audiences were likely rooting for her ex to get full custody.
Snatched me, didn't you? I guess I did.
In the end, Moore won a joint Razzie as Worst Actress for Striptease and The Juror, but it's the former that truly earned her the award, and a paycheck of $12.5 million. In September 2024, she told the New York Times Magazine that the big fat payday helped her process all the blowback from the movie, saying, "I don't take this personally. I think anyone who had been in the position that was the first to get that kind of equality of pay would probably have taken a hit. But because I did a film that was dealing with the world of stripping and the body, I was extremely shamed." No list of unwatchable 90s movie performances would be complete without an entry for Black Belt Bomb Factory Steven Seagal. The action star and Vladimir Putin's buddy earned an astounding 8 Razzie nominations throughout the decade, with 1995 being the opposite of a banner year for the master of direct-to-video schlock. His painfully predictable On Deadly Ground earned a bucket of Razzie nominations that year, and since he pulled double duty as director, he got to take home the awards for Worst Actor and Director, all in addition to Worst Picture. Among the film's many complaints were that its environmental message seems grossly out of place amongst idiotic moments, like Seagal's firefighter character smoking cigarettes around an oil rig fire. Nick Rogers of the Midwest Film Journal called it, quote, "a deeply silly and stupid movie, a ceaselessly hilarious hallmark of hubris."
See, I love the spirit world and I loved your father, but it doesn't matter right now. What really matters is the cold, hard reality of this world.
If you're thinking about checking out the movie just to see how bad of an actor Seagal is, don't bother. He's just as bad in all his other work. In fact, there was a long-standing rumor in Hollywood that Seagal's Aikido student and Hollywood super agent Michael Ovitz made a she's all that type bet that he could turn literally anyone into a movie star. He supposedly chose Seagal, and the rest was bad movie history. Kevin Costner saw some of the highest highs an actor could achieve during the 90s, despite nearly ruining a legendary folk hero in the middle of it all. In 1991, he invaded Sherwood Forest as the title character in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and earned himself a Worst Actor Razzie because of his complete and hilarious inability to do a British accent.
The sheriff calls us outlaws. But I say we are free.
Costner's ineptitude for being British sure isn't helped by casting him alongside one of the most British people in history with Alan Rickman, and other performances from the likes of Morgan Freeman and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio help make this the most watchable film on the list by far. But that distinction doesn't make it an actual good movie. As Vincent Canby of the New York Times wrote, the new movie is a mess, a big, long, joyless reconstruction of the Robin Hood legend. Thanks to his hit TV show on MTV, Hollywood was fooled into thinking audiences wanted to watch Pauly Shore on the big screen. Starring roles in Encino Man and Son-in-Law came and went without anyone too excited nor too upset. But 1996's Biodome was a big nope that ended the thought of Shore as a movie star. Shore and Stephen Baldwin star as a pair of stoner-coded idiot buddies who accidentally find themselves locked in an experimental sealed habitat for a year. And of course, shenanigans ensue. The best thing that can be said about this experiment, however, is that the movie is mercifully less than 90 minutes long.
I feel like a duck-billed platypus.
4% of critics were willing to risk their careers by sticking up for the movie, but Grant Watson of Fiction Machine was not one of them. As he wrote in his review, Biodome fails to impress because its jokes genuinely just aren't very funny. More importantly, its protagonists aren't enjoyable characters with which to spend 90 minutes. Shore has a preserved talent to actively leave comedy less funny than when he found it.